I just spent 3 days doing about 4-6 hours of work maximum whilst watching YouTube on my phone. The remainder. Why is work culture like this? Why can't we just go home instead of staying until 5? I feel like the world in general is hampered by this boomer mindset that you must work your contracted hours, when in reality, if you finish your work in 4 hours, you should be allowed to go home. No sense keeping people around wasting their life doing nothing, because once they realize you can do the work in half the time, they'll double your workload. More like pay you half, maybe sometimes. Sometimes it's a house of cards. Manager is in there wasting as much time as you are. Yep, this. Staying busy until 5 is a way to avoid skill creep, especially in highly specialized roles like if you were a software engineer or something. Sometimes you want that to be norm. Saddling them with extra non-work would mean when shit hits the fan, the business becomes impacted, so some extra margin of time can be desired. I got one better. Why do I have to keep up and checking the work messenger system until 11 p.m. to make sure there's no more work to be done during off? That's madness. Continue this thread. My job is like that too. I finish the work in 4 or 5 hours, but I have to stay at work and pretend to do shit for the rest of the time. Bane of my life. At least if I was actually busy, it wouldn't be so bad. Worst is pretending to look busy when someone comes into my office. A lot of the work I do is based on the work of others and just general maintenance stuff. It is so slow and low. I just listen to podcasts and shit at work. Sometimes I'm just on my phone for like 2 hours. Can't use the work network to mess around, as I don't want anyone to track that stuff. Probably on Monday I'll bring my Switch in and play. It is going to be slow, I just know it. My job can be like that, however. The 4-6 hours of work doesn't always show up at 8 a.m. Tasks appear randomly, and someone has to be present during office hours to handle those problems when they arise. I like to think of it as being paid more for my time, rather than what I actually do. Perhaps your job is like that as well. Unfortunately, I agree. While I hate being chained to a desk until a certain time when I haven't gotten an email for 2 hours, and if I duck out early, I end up having to turn right back around because something critical came in on my phone while I'm walking to the parking structure, or end up logging in from home, which defeats the purpose of leaving early anyway. This applies to lunch breaks as well, which I often don't take because there's always something urgent 5 minutes after I take off, and I cannot stand to leave work sitting there. The blessing of working from home all year is that this has been avoided. Instead of staring at my computer and checking Google News when there's nothing going on, I can throw in a load of laundry or vacuum the floor, which enables me to still feel productive while I keep an eye out for a work problem to solve or task to handle. It is the feeling of wasting time that I absolutely loathe. Slow days in the office are frustrating because all I think about is what I could be accomplishing if I were at home. Of course, the downside of working from home is that I end up working even longer hours because there's no strong need to escape at the end of the day. I admit it, I'm a clock watcher when in the office, unless it is a particularly frenetic day. I don't consider that a downside though, personally, and I'm dreading when we go back to the office, especially when my new boss discovers that no, it is not going to be common practice for me to be in the office working from 6 to 6 or 7 each day. It'll go right back to 7:30 or 4ish, barring workload exceptions. It depends on your job. Is it task-based or results-based? In a customer service job, as an example for something that's task-based, you are there to provide coverage in case a task needs to be done helping a customer. You are paid for your time, and not necessarily the amount of customers you help during your shift. In a results-based job, you are paid for the outcome at the end of a project. Did you successfully create a widget or write a report? If companies expected everyone to finish their work in 6 hours and let them off early, trust me, it wouldn't be a good thing. There goes your lunch and your benefits, since they will mark people as part-time. If there's a way for corporate to abuse the system, they will find it and fudge you in the process. Companies are already doing this by only hiring part-time for certain positions and not allowing people in those jobs to work more than 35 hours a week, keeping them below a full-time threshold, and the related benefits. This is common in high-turnover jobs, but the irony is that the lack of full-time hours or benefits is what spurs even more turnover in employees. Yeah, I hate the narrative that op has. If you were in that situation, consider yourself lucky, because once they find out, they will find a way to pay less for your responsibilities. This is why I'm loving off. I do my work, and if I don't have anything to do, I can be productive personally until more work comes in. The 40-hour work week is an inhumane throwaway of a life. The whole thing is so fucked. It's brainwashing that we think it's okay, normal, or acceptable. More than that, we honor it and hold each other accountable to it, even in concealed and subconscious ways. At my last office job and at agency, we were gifted copious time off and encouraged to take breaks. Rarely would anyone do so because, coincidentally, the time we spent on tasks was calculated in cost. This cover-your-cost method made it so we had to work hard to make our department profitable. So, if we had lighter workloads, we had to at least pretend to work so others wouldn't assume we were not upholding our end of the deal. Some evil shit right there. The hours worked per day have been decreasing over time, and people predicted back when we did the 10th to 8th jump that by now we would surely be down to 6. What's the point of automation and having robots do our job if we as humans don't profit from it? I have a 54-hour work week. Weekends are only Sundays and no national holiday off. Truth, I would kill for a job like that. I work unpaid overtime just to get the bare minimum done. I refuse to work weekends but spend my weekends generally anxious and dreading all the catch-up I'll have to do Monday. Most people I know in person have jobs where they work nonstop more than 8 hours, although I meet a lot of Redditors who spend work hours on Reddit. Haha. Salary really do be like that? Yeah, I can never relate with these posts. My last job nearly killed me. I was overloaded with work, barely took breaks and took work home. Eventually, we got no overtime pay, but the workload was still a lot. Try to find a new job if you can. Same, I've always wanted a job where you weren't stressed and had to move fast constantly. The ability to go on your phone is even better. Definitely jealous of ops. Same. I've been looking for a job like ops for the past 2 years since I've graduated. I've been doing manual labor for the most part. My personal policy is if my work's done, I'm not doing anything, and I'm not going to feel guilty about not doing anything. I will have my computer on and be available for the full 8 hours a day though. I'm lucky to work at a company where that's worked great for me. I can't believe there are companies with tracking software to make sure your mouse is still moving. I spend most of my work hours on my feet at a retail job. I don't get these posts complaining about being bored at work. I wish I could be bored. Yeah, I went from 5 years of retail to a job I can sit around on my phone a lot during the day, and I love it. For 6 hours, I swear I did about 3 hours of actual work over the past 4 days despite spending 30 hours there. Everyone was out of the office, and all my suppliers were also on vacation. But I still had to be there because I don't know. What a hard worker. You did 4 hours of work and more in an 8-hour work day. When I was in the office before COVID, I worked consistently 7-hour days with 90-minute lunch breaks. Now, with the COVID working from home, I do 6 hours of real work per week total. During all this, I was able to find another job with a 50 pay raise as well. Still working from home and barely works. To make up time, I literally study stuff on my own without telling anyone. As a society, we really need another industrial revolution. Our current way of life is built solely on the willingness to do 996 as in the people of China. They are still making the most stuff of the world. If their next generation doesn't want to do that, we are in trouble. How does one get such a job where one does nothing most of the time? 996. Now I am curious as to what job you do. I've been doing this for years, working maybe 2-3 hours per day, some days none. Most companies, including the one I work for, will try to add more and more to you if they think you are not busy. A lot of companies are trying to operate as lean as they can, even completing studies on this type of thing and combine jobs to save money. On my current job, I've been here 7 years. The job before, they had 3 people completing the duties about a year or so before I started. When I began working there, it was a 2-person department, and the other person quit within about a month of me starting. I was just out of college and they gave me a big pay raise to take the person's job who quit, and it then became a 1-man department. Stupid me. Needless to say, I still only worked about 2-3 hours a day as it was just too much stuff for one person to do. I completed the tasks that could be seen and was monitored, while the paperwork duties that wasn't checked on was left in chaos when I left too. 5 years later, I've kept in contact with people that work there, and they've hired about 6 or 7 people on that job since I left. They stay for a year or less then leave. I'd love to work a deal to leave at lunch every day, but I know they'd end up asking me to take on more work, or maybe cut my job and have someone else take up the duties. So I just sneak out early when I can and play the system. I did so I but I did People who make 100 more than I do have that same kind of work schedule. Only thing separating us is their knowledge in certain areas. Shit, they might not do anything but give me the work. That makes perfect sense, and I'm 45. If you've done your work, then go home. What's the point of staying in the office? An office is a place for work. And you can do work at home now, so it's become largely defunct in its traditional sense. The problem is that once people find out you were very effective in your role, they just pile on more work and responsibilities until you burn out or you somehow get promoted. If every employee was doing their job, the company would be productive. This is simply the other side of the do your time coin. Sure, the employer could give you a raise or promotion now, but why would they show their hand when they don't have to? This is why they feed you the how dare you ask for a promotion. Joe has been here 200 years and he just got one last week. In line, working less than 8 hours is simply us doing the same thing to the employer. Sure, we could work 8 hours, but why would we when we know they'll pay us the same? So we tell them, yeah, it took 3 hours days, downvote away, and I'm sorry if this doesn't fit the literally anything employers do is evil narrative. But as someone who spent most of his life doing blue-collar work and customer service, when I hear white-collar workers say this, all I hear is, why don't I get the benefits of ownership when I'm not willing to take the risks that go with it? If you want a better deal, go out and make it happen. Become a 1099 worker. Start your own company and work as little or as much as you want. Get some coworkers together, talk to the bank, and buy out the company you work for now. I do security for a hotel and just play my Switch and watch movies all day. I have to be there for mainly insurance reasons. The small chance something happens and I am not there, things can escalate quickly. Life of a remote software engineer. Watch tours of cat bids. Do 4-6 hours of work. Why can't we take a long, unpaid break from work without having to find a new job? 2-3 weeks of vacation time a year is not enough to feel like a real human that has a life outside of work. At this point, I'm starting to look for a new job for the sole reason of having that 1-2 months between jobs of pure freedom where I don't have to feel anxious for work approaching in a few days. Why can't we just take that time off from work without paying and come back to our regular jobs? Why do they give us breaks like this in the first quarter of our life, then take them away when you enter the workforce? Humans are not meant to live like this. I'd love for sabbaticals to be standard. I worked at a place that offered a sabbatical after 5 years. Kind of weird that everybody is laid off just shy of 5 years. Shy of I had one recently of about 3-2 months. I wasn't even looking for a job. A recruiter contacted me, plenty did before, but this one actually followed through. It really let me reset myself after working in a highly toxic place for 18 months. Another one I had was for about 5 months after working at a great place that turned toxic due to restructuring, causing me to be under an initial manager for a few months after dealing with him for over a year trying to manage me while not being my manager. Sabbaticals are great if you can afford them. Bold take there. Lots of companies are starting to change to this style of vacation, so you can find them. I work as an AFST and we get 10 holidays, 15 vacation and 5 sick days. Since you only work 3-4 days a week, you can get a lot of time off in big chunks. The issue is lots of workers are conditioned to not only get less vacation, but spend more of their free time focused on work. Hell, I know multiple co-workers who didn't take 2 weeks worth of vacation which didn't even get paid out or rolled over because they didn't want to deal with home life and kids. It is kind of in the end you're competing with people who are totally happy to take a shittier deal and less pay than you want. It is sort of a crab in the bucket mentality. But you will see it in this subreddit frequently. What's an angst? Damn, that's really sad. If my home life was that bad, I'd still use my vacation days and just leave the house and pretend I went to work. Lots of my co-workers are afraid to take off just because the work piles up while they are gone. Mondays are already crazy for us in the import industry because work piles up even over the weekend. I took every vacation sick day I was given because otherwise I would quit from burnout. Even if my home life sucked, I would still totally take a vacation day but just skip off during the days to go do something legit like a spa or just go hang out in a field and stare at the clouds. And also, why are employment gaps seen as such a negative that has to be explained away? I was applying for a job that asked applicants to explain all employment gaps of 6 months or more. After working 50-60 hours a week for 10+ years, if a person can afford to take a few months off to mentally prepare for their next role, why is that held against them? Is it that badly seen tough? Imo, if you can explain it, most employer don't bat an eye. One of the few perks of being a teacher. If only our breaks were 2, it cracks me up that people whine that they only get 2 weeks of paid vacation at their job. It is illegal for teachers to be paid for vacation days in the state I teach in. In Germany, the minimum holiday vacation entitlement is 24 working days a year. This is based on a working week of 6 working days excluding Sundays. Someone should correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in America we don't have a minimum legal requirement of 2, though it might vary by state, or paid holidays. I just did a quick Google search and it says 76 of workers have access to 2, average 5-10 days. Eek. Personally, I have 15 days of 2, but that includes sick days too. And you get to turn your work email off, right? The us being off still means answering the phone and replying to mails. And now with work from home, time off is bullshit. My partner is taking his 2 weeks the last 2 weeks of the year, and he has been working at least an hour every day. Oh, we didn't go anywhere but I lived in Czech Republic for a number of years, and because of my age I got 5 weeks of holiday. At first it was very strange, but I got used to it. Back in the States, 2 weeks was just shit. Boss called me, emails kept coming in, other colleagues called me. There was no relaxing. I'm late to comment, but I was wondering if this 24-day vacation a year starts as soon as you start working. In USA, most employers increase the length of vacation time as you work at the company longer. For example, I got 1 vacation day a month until I worked at my work for 2 years. Then I started getting 2 days a month. Technically speaking, I get 24 working days off a year, but if I take all of my time all at once, my boss wouldn't like it. I'm from Japan, so the US system is still much better than what they have in Japan. Here we go. Yes, for me it is normal to have 30 vacation days, plus public holidays, and when I'm sick, then I'm sick. That is what I always thought as well. Life has so many wonderful things to do, but we humans have to spend 8 hours per day, 5 days per week working hours off. I don't know. I feel like a robot from working so much. Humans don't live like that outside the US. This is a particularly American thing, like paying for your own medical care. I was laid off this year and just got a new job. I didn't work for 8 months, and it was amazing, I'll admit. Well, the American system. I get 6 weeks of paid vacation. And because everybody does, we just have to juggle around so that in every week a fixed number of people is off. I hear you on the work-life balance issue, but sabbaticals don't work for most businesses. In the developed world, it is common to get 25-40 vacation days per year plus national holidays. And I am sure a lot of workplaces would be open to the idea of you taking unpaid leave for a period to go do something if you wanted to, and gave enough notice. We all have to fight to have things like this like they have in Europe. Guard, sir. Another soul woke up in quadrant 52. He is questioning if the ultra-rich basically rebranded slavery like a fancy picture on a breakfast cereal box hiding shitty oatmeal, and the public simply doesn't realize they live to make the rich richer. At my workplace, you can set up a plan with her where you got paid of your salary for 1-2 years, and then you take 1 year off and you get paid what you saved during the previous years.
Like and subscribe for more Reddit content. Watch the next video at the top of your screen.